celebration of National Girls and Women in Sports Day. My name is Jen Goebel, and I am the athletics director here at Thomas Worthington High School. Joining me on the stage today to my left are 11 of our top female senior athletes, who will be introducing to my right our 5 very special guest speakers. Today, we will hear from an All-American, a coach at Ohio State, an OCC Hall of Famer, a local news celebrity, and the first female to coach Division I college football. They will each share their stories with you about the impact that playing sports has had on their lives. I stand before you today as a Thomas Worthington graduate who was the first person in my family to go to college because of a soccer scholarship. So the impact of playing high school sports has been profound on my life, and I care deeply about the impact that playing sports will have on your lives. The young women joining me on the stage today are all tremendously successful and have incredibly impressive resumes. But something that is incredibly important to remember, and often incredibly difficult to remember, is that the real value of sports participation comes from the ability to pick yourself up again after you've been knocked down. It is certainly a lot more fun to celebrate the wins and enjoy the successes, but the true value, the lifelong value, is in finding out who you are when you suffer a loss. When you pick yourself up and you keep going. When you decide to go forward with more determination than ever before. I am so grateful that the women to my right are here today to share their stories with you. I hope you leave here today feeling inspired, empowered, and proud of the hard work and dedication you have made to your sports. So to get us started today, and to share a little bit about this event, I am so pleased to introduce to you 2 of our senior athletes at Thomas Worthington, Bree White and Alicia Diggs Hall. Bree has played both school and club volleyball for the past 6 years. Bree's volleyball coach, Natalie Walter, describes her as ambitious, determined, and dependable. Bree will continue playing volleyball next year at Tiffin University, where she plans to major in criminalistics. Alicia Diggs Hall is a senior track and field runner who Coach Cox describes as altruistic, hardworking, and a natural leader. Alicia just so happens to be an All-American on our 4x400 relay team and plans to attend Kent State University in the fall. I am so proud to introduce to you today Alicia and Bree.
Good morning. National Girls and Women in Sports Day began in 1987 as a special day in our nation's capital to recognize women's sports. The day united premier organizations and elite female athletes to bring national attention to the promise of girls and women in sports.
In 1987, National Girls and Women in Sports Day also served as a remembrance of Olympic volleyball player Flo Hyman for her athletic achievements and dedication to promoting equality for women's sports. Flo Hyman died of Marfan syndrome in 1986. National Girls and Women's in Sports Day evolved into an event to acknowledge the accomplishments of female athletes and the positive influence of sports participation and the continuing struggle for equality for women in sports.
This day is powered by the Women's Sports Foundation, supported by its team of champion athletes and celebrated throughout the year by school and community serving organizations across all 50 states.
Thomas Worthington High School and Worthington Schools are proud to be part of this celebration, and we welcome you all here today.
To introduce our first guest, Dr. Kathy McFarland, I have the pleasure of introducing you to 2 members of our swim team, seniors Maddie Holub and Rachel Rinaldi. Maddie Holub is a 4-year varsity swimmer and water polo player. Maddie's water polo coach, Olivia Miranda, describes Maddie as intelligent, dedicated, and caring. Maddie is a member of the National Honor Society and plans to major in psychology at Kent State University. Rachel Rinaldi is a 3-sport varsity athlete, also playing 4 years of field hockey and lacrosse in addition to swimming. Rachel has served as a team captain, won 3 state championships with our field hockey team, and also serves as a freshman mentor. She is a member of the National Honor Society and the Student Athletic Leadership Board. Rachel's plans for the future are still undecided, but she wants to study business at a four-year university that will be lucky to have her. Please welcome Rachel Rinaldi and Maddie Hola.
Okay, our first guest speaker today is one of Worthington's own. Dr. Kathy McFarland graduated from Worthington High School in 1987 after attending Brookside Elementary School and Perry Middle School. Kathy was a varsity swim captain, a high school All-American for our coach, Jim Callahan.
Kathy McFarland went on to swim at North Carolina State University and became a high school English teacher. She then obtained her administrator's license from the University of Dayton and eventually served as a middle school and high school principal in Olentangy local schools. Dr. Kathy McFarland obtained a doctorate in educational leadership from Ohio University and is currently the Chief Deputy Executive for the Ohio School Boards Association.
Dr. McFarland is a mother, educator, and leader, but above all, she's an advocate for her kids. Her career exploits have always supported her passion to help kids realize their full potential.
Welcome back to Worthington High School, Dr. Kathy McFarland.
Are we hot? We're good? Well, good morning, everyone. It is quite a compliment and an opportunity to stand in front of all of you and speak to you. So what I wanted to do today is talk to you about the foundation. The foundation that you are building right now as a student athlete. And we're going to talk about how that is serving you today, will serve you tomorrow, and will catapult you into your future. There's four things you're doing as a student athlete that's building this foundation. You are experiencing success and failure. You are getting a good perspective on life. You have people in your life, and you're making plans. So let's revisit that introduction. That was a nice introduction, right? Those were the highlights. That's what's a nice thing about introductions. But it's not the whole story. There's more to me, just like there's more to you. We all have successes, but we also have this pillar over here that are our failures, our times that we didn't succeed where we wanted to. So let me tell you a little bit about those. Junior year, the Worthington Local News wrote an article about me, the potential to be a 100 backstroke state champion. My junior year, I didn't even make state finals in the 100 backstroke. I have earned the title of All-American MVP, National Qualifier, and Record Holder. I have disqualified relays. I've been kicked off the national team because I missed workout because I was spending time with my boyfriend at the time. And I missed my Olympic trial cut by 1/100th of a second. I've completed a dissertation to earn the title of doctor. It's like butter in your mouth, doctor, right? It took me 5 years. I was told 30 times it wasn't good enough. I probably quit 100 times during that experience. I have been called a leader, a teacher, a motivator, a coach. I've been called an Amazon, a circus freak. My name should be Kevin instead of Kathy. That was a good one, wasn't it? And probably some choice words of some high school students when I was their principal. But the important thing is I've had both pillars in my life. I've had successes and I've had failures, just like you. Here's what you're learning as a student athlete. See, we don't have the luxury as athletes to give up when we fail. So you don't go into a game, put a shot up and miss it and say, you know what, I'm tapping out, I'm done. You learn to adjust. You learn to learn from what you've done. And both pillars are so imperative to the foundation. Many people who do not experience athletics have no idea how to balance or handle success and failure. See, you're learning from both of those pillars. You're learning when you succeed, what did you do? But you're mostly learning the times that you fell down, what can you do to improve? I'm guessing there's times you ask yourself, how can on a Tuesday I get an A on a test and Thursday I turn around and I failed a test? And what you've learned as an athlete is to take a look at it, study it, readjust, and do something differently. So I commend you on the fact that as a student athlete, you live in a space that every day, be it practice, a game, an event, you are vacillating between success and failure, and you are learning so much about yourself. The second thing is perspective. It's called the full plate phenomenon. You are so used to having so many things on your plate. Think about it. You go to school, you go to practice, you have games, you have families, you have friends. You're going to enter the world, the workforce or the college or wherever you aspire to go after this, and you're going to meet people that have no idea what to do with a full plate. But see, what you've learned to do is organize. You've learned to prioritize. It's Sunday night, you have a game on Thursday. You have to study Monday and Tuesday because you know Thursday you're going to get home late, or Wednesday night you're not going to be able to study for that test. That's such a great skill set that you have, being able to balance that full plate. The third thing you're learning, and the third piece of this foundation, is the people you're surrounding yourself with. You are most like the 5 people you spend the most time with. Fortunately, you spend a lot of time with your teammates, people of like-mindedness, people who understand success and failure, people who understand prioritizing and organizing their days. I used to talk to my students a lot about a life bus. You drive a bus, and on your bus you have 4 types of passengers. Ones that have to be on your bus because they're your parents or your teachers that were assigned to you. Those that we invite onto our bus because those are our friends or our significant others. The third are passengers we look at and we think, how did you get on our bus? And the fourth are the ones that we seek out and we say, we want you on the bus. You are learning such a valuable lesson about how important it is to build a network, how to surround yourself with positive people. My suggestion to you is most of you take an inventory of your bus right now. Because I'm guessing there's a lot of people, and I'm thinking a lot of them are sitting up on this stage right now that you should invite on your bus, and you've learned how important that is. The fourth thing, and the final piece of the foundation I'm going to talk about, is your perspective. Your perspective and your plans in life. They say that goals without plans are just dreams. See, you know better than that. Through your athletics, you know that when you set a goal, you've got to create a plan, a roadmap. How are you going to get to that goal? I'm guessing that most of you sat down at the beginning of the season as a team and said, here's what we want to do at the end of the season. As an individual athlete, maybe you said, I want to be a national qualifier, or I want to be a state champion. And you sat down and you created that plan. And here's the great thing about that. You've also learned to adjust. You've learned to change. You've learned to, hey, this plan didn't go the way I wanted. I didn't get the time I wanted. I put the ball up and it didn't go in. I kicked the ball and it didn't go in the net. I touched the ball and looked up and it wasn't the time I wanted. And you adjusted your plan. Very few people your age have the ability to do that. A lot of people say, I want to do this, I want to be this, but they have no idea how to set a plan. And most importantly, they have no idea how to adjust that plan, and you do. I wish somebody would have stood in front of me when I was your age and said, listen, what you're doing is hard. I know. You think I skippity dip to practice every day, like, woohoo, let's crank out 6,000? No. There were times I didn't want to go. There were times I was tired. There were times I wanted to be with my friends. There were times my boyfriend broke my heart. I just wanted to go home and curl up in a ball. Those experiences are going to drive you so many great places. And I wish somebody who was farther down the road would have said, hang in there. Keep pushing the mountain. Keep showing up to practice. And here's the other thing. I don't care if you're the worst athlete on your team or you're Miss D1 and they're throwing scholarships at you. You are all learning these things. Good for you. Good for you for the dedication, the commitment, the number of times you've had to say no to your friends, the number of times that alarm has gone off and you've thought, really? I just want to sleep in. I'm very proud of you, and I'm very excited because I know, because I'm farther down that road, that what you are doing through your athletics is setting you up for success. So, if you want me on your bus, you can find me. I have email addresses. Just Google me. I'll be happy to be on your bus because I'll be there. I'll walk with you on your journey. Good luck to you. Have a wonderful rest of the school year. Continue to work hard. Be great. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. McFarland. Our next two senior presenters are also multi-sport athletes and very good friends. Brianne Beatty is a 4-year standout varsity basketball player and hurdler on the Thomas Worthington High School track and field team. Brianne's former basketball coach, Lori Barr, describes her as self-motivated, a team player, focused, creative, and a great friend. Her current coach, Coach Bill Sperlaza, calls her a relentless competitor. Brianne has committed to play basketball at Oakland University in the fall, where she plans to major in early childhood education. Sarah Charlie is one of the most highly decorated female athletes in the history of Thomas Worthington High School. Sarah is a 2-time All-American and a 3-time state champion. Her field hockey coach, Terry Simonetti, describes Sarah as a natural athlete who is intelligent and determined. Her opponents describe her as an absolute nightmare. Sarah also runs track and plays basketball, but is committed to playing field hockey at The Ohio State University next year. Please join me in welcoming Brian Beatty and Sarah Tyler.
Was a standout three-sport high school athlete at Delaware Hayes High School. She was a first-team all-conference and first-team all-district volleyball player. In track and field, Carrie was a state qualifier in long jump, the 400-meter dash, and placed first jump at districts in the long jump. At some point in her high school career, all of her relay teams were regional qualifiers.
Carrie Banks was dominant on the basketball court, leading her team with 25 points per game her senior year and receiving first-team all-conference and all-district honors. Carrie went on to play collegiately at Detroit Mercy and graduated in 2000 with a bachelor's degree in communications. After college, Banks played professionally in Portugal for 2 seasons.
Carrie Banks has been an assistant basketball coach at Northwestern, University of South Florida, and Detroit. She has a master's degree in journalism from Kent State and has worked as a freelance reporter for the Big Ten Network and a color analyst for the Big Ten Network for women's basketball games.
Carrie Banks is now the assistant women's basketball coach and recruiting coordinator at The Ohio State University. The Buckeyes have won 56 games over Banks' first 2 seasons and have won back-to-back Big Ten regular season championships as well as the 2018 Big Ten tournament title. Please join us in welcoming to the stage, Carrie Banks.
Thank you guys both. That was really, really nice. Oh, wait! Oh, I love it. I love to hear that. I love to scream it out in airports, walking on campus, anywhere I go, and sometimes I hear go, we won't say what, but I just ignore those people. So I am one of the assistant women's basketball coaches at The Ohio State University, and Sarah, I think it is, I'll see you there next year. So congrats, that's an amazing accomplishment. Really excited to be here. I sit and I talk in front of student athletes every single day, and I can't stress to you how nervous I am to be in front of you guys today. It's you guys are a tremendous group, organizing this program, and just to take the time to listen to us, I think is really, really cool. We actually have a home game tonight. We play against Penn State. We just got back from a horrible road loss on Sunday, so we are looking to get back on track tonight at home. And we are like right smack dab in the middle of our Big Ten conference season. And I don't know, is everybody in this room an athlete or a participant in some sort of extracurricular activity? So every single year, this is my 11th season coaching, I look and I say, wow, that went so fast. And it's February, and we started at the end of August, and I can't believe that our season is more than halfway over, and it's almost postseason play. So one of the things that I constantly work on every single year, and I want to encourage you guys to work on as you're in your sports, your extracurricular activities, is just to stop and enjoy the moment. And I promise you, just from being a little bit older and having experience, that these will be some of the best days of your life being a part of a team. So enjoy it, get to know your teammates. Some of my former teammates and players are some of my best relationships. Some of the people that I have on my bus and that I call when I need support or need advice. So value those relationships and continue to take time to cultivate them. I want to talk just a little bit about our current team because this is a very unique year. I think it is a year that I have grown and learned probably the most, and I say that, and the next year I'll be completely blown away by another group. But we graduated 5 seniors last year. 3 of those seniors were WNBA players. One of them was the number 2 pick in the WNBA draft. And one of them actually made a training camp and is playing overseas right now. So 4 professional players we graduated. And one who is a very smart young lady. They were all smart, but knew from the time she came into college, hey, I want to do this engineering thing, that's it. And so she is finishing up her degree right now. She also has a paid internship for AEP right here in Columbus, Ohio. So that was her path. And basketball was a means to an end for her. And it was a means to a free education and no student loans for her, and it has worked tremendously for her. She will be richer than all of us one day, I am sure of it. So, needless to say, we lost a lot of talent. We lost a lot of production. We returned 2 players. Those 2 players were role players. And then we had 8 new players, 5 of them who were transfers, 3 of them who were true freshmen. And so here's how the college season works. The NCAA comes in and says, hey, you can only spend this amount of time with your players per week, and it's not that much. We started practice at the end of September. Our first game was the beginning of November. We had 6 weeks pretty much to take all this youth and inexperience and meld them together as a team. And we had one of the toughest schedules in all of women's college basketball. We played at Connecticut, we played South Florida, at Stanford. And so it was just brutal with this young team. And so we had to kind of, as a coaching staff, come up with something to take our focus off of just the wins and losses, because we knew the Big Ten, we would start to hit our stride if we kept them on board and we kept them focused. And so what we just said is that, hey, we're going to, first of all, teach them what it takes to win at this level. And that's gonna be coming in early, getting shots up, staying late, watching film, and just being consistent in our work ethic and our attitude, okay? But basically, we had to say to them, like, hey, we know that we have to be the hardest working team every single day, and every single day in practice, we really have to work to just focus on getting better. And so that's what we did. And slowly but surely, it got better, and it got better. And it wasn't always reflected in our box scores, but there were games that we played really, really well, and we just didn't win. And then there were some games where it all came together, and we beat a couple top 25 teams. And so for us, it's a little bit of a break from what we're used to. For the last 4 years, we've been the top 25 program. And that's why I say this year has been a huge growing experience and learning experience for me. But one thing I want to share about what that means for you is this, is that I truly feel that your success is directly correlated to your preparation, okay? So what you do every single day, are you focused, are you disciplined, are you holding yourself accountable, directly reflects how successful you will be. And we got our team to buy into that. And as a coaching staff, we had to really work to hold them accountable. And what you'll see is a team that knows that now they have an identity, that they have to play hard, they have to play tough, they have to play selfless and together, and when they do that, they know they can compete with anybody in this country. And you know, I think one of the other lessons in that is that we as women, when we come together and we decide to empower each other, uplift each other, support each other through the down times, we can accomplish anything that we set our minds to. You guys all have unique gifts, and a lot of times I see women that are in competition with each other. Our team, they have embraced each other and say, hey, you're really good at this, so I'm gonna highlight this for you. And in turn, you know, I'm really good at this, so embrace, you know, what I do well. And, you know, I think that's the beauty of sport, and that's the beauty of team. So just a little bit more about like what sports has been in my life. I grew up in Delaware, Ohio, small town. I had 6 siblings. My house, I feel like it was a very competitive household. I grew up watching my older sisters and brothers play sports. My younger siblings grew up watching me play sports. So it was, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be very good. Growing up, my favorite athlete was Michael Jordan. I think that's kind of a no-brainer, but you know, I'll tell you another thing. One of the reasons he was my favorite athlete is there was not a lot of representation of female athletes on TV at that time. And so a lot of times, the only time I saw women on TV was during the Olympics. And we all know that the Olympics is once every 4 years, right? So I mean, that's not a lot of time to see somebody who looks like you excel at a high level. And so as I got to middle school, high school, I really started watching Ohio State women's basketball games. And our coaches would take us down sometimes, and I got to watch Katie Smith, who it's funny that now that I'm coaching at Ohio State, she's around all the time. I've got to meet her, and she's tremendous. But I watched them in their national championship run play against Texas Tech, and that team featured Cheryl Swoops. I mean, so arguably the 2 best basketball players to ever play the game, I didn't see or hear of them until I was in high school. All right, and Cheryl Swoops dropped 47 points in that game. I mean, that's pretty spectacular. But that right there cemented my love for sports. Seeing them with such poise, such confidence, out there playing a game that I loved, I was like, I know that this is what I want to do. So I stand here today too as a basketball coach saying my story almost didn't happen. Kind of the essence of who I am and what my journey has been is I've always been that person who's been overlooked. When it came to me getting a scholarship to go to the University of Detroit, most people signed their basketball national letters of intent in the fall. I didn't sign mine until April, 6 weeks before graduation. It almost didn't happen. So for me, it was kind of like I had this crazy dream. I wanted to play, and I just kind of had to keep my head down and work and prepare. And then my opportunity came, and I was ready. And so I left Delaware, and I had this tremendous high school experience. I go to college, and I went from playing every single minute of the game to playing only 8 minutes of the game. And I had a choice to make. I can either transfer, quit, or I can stay and I can fight. And I decided to stay and fight. And it's something that you learn in times of adversity. It kind of reveals who you are. And I will tell you today, if in times of adversity, if you quit, it will get easier and easier to quit every single time something difficult is put in front of you. Okay, so I encourage you guys all to stay and fight. That next year I was an all-conference player, I was a starter, and I was so happy that I made that decision to stay and fight. My road to Ohio State was very similar. The first time my job opened up, it was 6 years ago. I wanted the job desperately. Who doesn't want to coach at Ohio State? My family's here. It's a great school, and I didn't get the job. Instead, I got an offer at Northwestern, a team that was struggling, to say the least. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere, and I'm going to prove that I can take a team, and I can affect change positively. In 2 years, we went to the NCAA tournament. A year later, the Ohio State job opened up again. This time, I got the job. So it was a true kind of full circle, story for me. And I know that you guys will have a lot of ups and downs in your path. And I want you to know that where you are in life is exactly where you are supposed to be. But what you do in that time, mentally and physically preparing yourself for your next step, will determine where you go. You are where you are to learn something. Embrace that. Learn it so that when your opportunity comes along, you are ready and you can move on. Okay? The last thing I'll share with you, I don't want to talk too long, but it's just a little bit about, the fact that I felt like my sports story is always about being overlooked. And I feel like as women, oftentimes we can feel like we're overlooked or looked at for the wrong reasons, maybe superficial reasons. Instead of being looked at based on our talents, sometimes people judge us by what we wear, by how we talk, by our social media presence, okay? And I'm here to tell you that stuff doesn't matter. Keep doing what you're doing, keep working towards your goals, and you know what? Be resilient in the face of adversity. You're gonna get knocked down a lot, get back up, and in that process, you will discover who you are, you will find strength, you will find confidence, and you will get that much closer to your goals and successes. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, Coach Meggs. Our next guest, Coach Nancy Beatty, will be introduced by 2 state champions in the 800 meters. Laura Zelch won a state championship and a national championship in 1997 and is now a teacher in Worthington. Laura also happened to be one of my high school soccer teammates, and I am so grateful to call her both a friend and a colleague. Gia Napoleon, who is a senior, has run varsity cross country and track and field for 4 years. Gia was the 2017 state champion in the 800 and is an All-American in the 4x400 relay. Gia's head coach, Andy Cox, describes Gia as humble, empathetic, and driven. Gia will continue her running career at The Ohio State University next year. Please welcome to the stage state champions and All-Americans, Gia Napoleon and Laura Zelch.
Today, Gia and I have the pleasure of introducing a woman who has coached both of us at Thomas Worthington High School.
Coach Nancy Beatty started coaching in 1982 and is still coaching at Thomas Worthington High School today. She served 22 years as the head girls track and field coach, 8 years as the boys' head cross-country coach, and also 3 seasons as the head girls' cross-country coach. She won 11 OCC championships, 14 district championships, and 8 regional championships with an unprecedented string of 7 in a row from 1991 to 1997.
During the 1990s, Thomas Worthington was perennially in the top 5 team places at the OHSAA state championships with 1 runner-up finish. Nancy Beatty created nothing short of a running powerhouse at Thomas Worthington in the 1990s.
Coach Beatty was the first female president of the Ohio Association of Track and Cross-Country Coaches. In 2011, Coach Beatty was presented with the highest level of service honor from that association with the Ed Barker Service Award. Nancy's career is distinguished by her work to add the girls' pole vault to the OHSAA state track and field meet, resulting in 800 additional female athletes being able to compete at the state tournament.
This ultimately led to the boys' 4x200 meter relay being added to the state championship meet, also giving hundreds of male athletes an additional chance to compete at the state level.
In 2018, Nancy Beatty was finally inducted into the Ohio Capital Conference Hall of Fame. She became just the 3rd woman to join over 50 male recipients when she was inducted.
Please welcome to the stage our coach, Nancy Beatty.
Okay, after that, I think I'll just sit down. Change of pace. I'm the old lady here. I wasn't a state champion, although I got to coach a few. But I wanted to thank Jen, and I'm going to follow these notes. I was given a timeline. I'm a little nervous up here. I was given a timeline, and I'm old. And even though I wrote this speech, I forget half of it as I go through it. So bear with me here. Old is, we'll make it. I'm like your grandma. My granddaughter is here today. She came up from Grove City to hear this. So I thought I would put this in perspective for you. I think I was invited here to give you a reprise of the speech that I gave at the OCC meeting last fall. Actually, I'm here to give you some sense of history of Ohio high school women's sports. And since I did not come to Ohio in a covered wagon, I did, however, live through the history of women in sport in Ohio. So let me go through the actual events of my life. When I was young and in high school, I was very skinny. Kids would tease me constantly, saying things like, I bet you have to run around the shower to get wet. And because my legs were so skinny and my knees were so bony, they called me camel legs. Well, oh yeah, that's true. This was before the PC culture, of course. I had an Aunt Margene, and she saw this situation, and she told me that polite Southern ladies have a phrase that fits any situation. She said you can say almost anything you want if you follow it with, well, bless your heart. For example, poor Alice, she must have been raised in a barn, bless her heart. Over the years, I've benefited from this advice. In the 1960s, I was playing GAA basketball. You probably, I don't even know if you know what that is. But GAA basketball was an intramural sport. There were no varsity sports for girls. We were not allowed to play girls' sports at other schools, and girls were only allowed to run half the court. Basically, because we were told that if girls ran too much, our female parts would become damaged, possibly fall out. And we could never have babies. But there was one position called a roving guard. The roving guard can run the whole court and to be the sole defender of the basket, and I volunteered for that position because I figured with a name like Camel Legs, my chances of getting and finding a husband were slim to none, so who cared? Later in 1967, when I was 21, I watched Kathy Switzer the first woman to run the Boston Marathon, expecting to see ambulances at the finish line because surely her vagina would fall out on national television. I was astounded to see she was just fine. That was my woke moment, as some of you guys like to say today. And I wondered how in the heck did anyone think that if a woman ran a lot, their insides would fall out? Those doctors, scientists, educators were dumber than doorknobs. Bless their hearts. In 1972, I was 26 years old. Senator Birch Bayh of Indiana, along with Representative Patsy Mink of Hawaii, were about to get their piece of legislation, Title IX, passed through the Senate. Senator Bayh stated on the Senate floor, this is a direct quote, "We are all familiar with the stereotype that women are pretty things who go to college to find a husband and go on to graduate school because they want a more interesting husband, and finally marry, have children, and never work again." He said this because it was common thought for most colleges and universities not to waste a man's place with a scholarship on a woman. Birch went on to say, and I'm paraphrasing here, "The facts contradict these myths about the weaker sex. This is why Title IX is an important first step in the effort to provide for the women of America something that is rightfully theirs. 1, an equal chance to attend schools of their choice. 2, to develop the skills that they want. 3, to apply those skills with the knowledge that they will have a fair chance to secure the jobs of their choice with equal pay for equal work." This became law in 1972, but wasn't enacted until 1974. I was 28 years old at the time. It's important to remember that Title IX isn't just about girls playing sports. It's also about girls being able to get academic and athletic scholarships. Because if you were a girl in high school before 1974 and you wanted to go to college, someone had to foot the entire bill. There was no opportunity to get a scholarship of any kind in many universities. Title IX states, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance." And that, ladies, includes any educational program, not just sports. So let's just take 1 minute and look at the girls' sports in Ohio. These are statistics from the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Boys began participating in state-recognized sports in 1908. The first sport was track and field, and that was 111 years ago. Boys had been participating in football since in the 1980s, but it took them a while before they could determine a state champion. By 1928, boys were also participating in tennis, basketball, golf, cross-country, swimming and diving, and baseball. So for the past 91 years, boys have had the advantage of participation in getting scholarships to colleges and universities for playing sport. Girls began participating in state-recognized sports in 1975. That was 44 years ago. The first sports were track and field and volleyball, followed by tennis and basketball in 76, then swimming and diving and gymnastics in 77, cross-country and softball in 78, field hockey 79, soccer 85, golf 93, and finally bowling in 2007 and lacrosse just year before last in 2017. So did you notice that no girls' sports were recognized by the OHSAA until 1975? Just 1 year after Title IX was enforced. Congress had to pass a law before Ohio recognized women's right to play sport. To put this all into perspective, your grandmothers, my generation, fought to give your mothers the opportunity to play sports and go to college. You, my dears, are the legacy, the granddaughters. I tell you all of this so that you can be properly informed about your status in the United States. I do not tell you this so that you may be resentful of men. I happen to be married to my best friend who happens to be a man, so they're not all bad. We need to honor the past but look to the future. Let me explain it to you this way. The reason I love Wyoming is because it was the first state to give women the right to vote. And it was also the first state to hang a woman for committing murder. So, now that's what I call equality. Give us what's rightfully ours and hold us accountable for our actions. One thing that you may do to hold yourself accountable is to set personal and team goals. This is a great way to point yourself in the right direction. But while setting those goals, I want you to remember this from Henry David Thoreau. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving those goals. What I'm about to say is an example of this point. On summer evenings when I'm sitting on the back porch, I sometimes reminisce about my coaching days, and it's not the win and loss record that I recall. I remember girls like Abby Dallas and Elizabeth Kittredge, who came to me in the winter of 1998 and wanted to pole vault. I said, girls don't pole vault, and they said, why not? Holy cow, that just transported me back to the 1960s. So Bob Holland, the president of the Track Coaches Association, gave me permission to petition the OHSAA. It took 3 years. And in 2001, girls were finally allowed to compete in pole vault in Ohio. Abby and Liz graduated from this school. And in 2000, the year 2000, and never vaulted for our team. But those girls who walked these halls were trailblazers. Because of them, over 800 girls have been allowed to participate in this event in the state meet so far. I reminisce about the brave girls who came to practice every day. And thanks to Facebook, I have kept in touch with many of them. Today, we are wives, mothers, and also doctors, nurses, lawyers. One is running a huge hospital in Texas, another is starting their own brewery in Montana. Michelle Morkey is a famous ninja lawyer. And others are engineers, writers, educators, and many are coaches. I am so proud of them all. This is what happens when no one tells a girl what she cannot do. Young women are still out there making history. But remember Thoreau, it's not what you get, it's what you become. And each and every one of you are becoming something new every day you step onto the court, field, track, bowling alley, golf course, or pool. You are my heroes. Thank you for listening.
Presented by seniors Valerie Simon and Tori Banks. Valerie Simon is an American All-American varsity cheerleader. She is a member of the Student Athletic Leadership Board, National Honor Society, and Spanish National Honor Society. Valerie's head coach, Ashley Haldeman, describes Valerie as ambitious, compassionate, and joyful. Valerie plans to attend Ohio State University in the fall. Tori Banks is our senior class president, who also happens to be a 3-sport varsity athlete. Tori has made state appearances for cross country, as a 2-time national qualifier for indoor track, and is an all-state lacrosse player. Coach Cox describes Tori as kind-hearted, dedicated, and a positive role model. Tori is committed to playing Division I lacrosse at Liberty University next fall. Please welcome Valerie and Tori.
Our next guest, Audrey Hassan, is a broadcast media journalist for NBC4.
Audrey previously worked for WOSU Public Media, where she was the host of the Emmy Award-winning magazine program, Broad and High. She also worked for the WNBA Washington Mystics as a sideline reporter and for Fox News Channel in New York City.
Audrey grew up in Central Ohio and played softball and basketball at Worthington High School before going to Otterbein University. Audrey's entire family still lives in Columbus, and her brother is an Army veteran, making Audrey a passionate supporter for the Wounded Warrior Project and Children of the Fallen Patriots.
Please give a warm welcome to Audrey Hassan.
Thank you, girls, and thank you so much, Thomas Worthington, for having me here today. I was here 2 years ago as part of our football Friday night morning kickoff, and I have to say, the Cardinals' spirit and passion for sports was so inspiring to me. It was one of the top in Central Ohio, so congratulations to all of you for playing sports here at Thomas Worthington. You know, if we go out to my car right now, in my trunk, you will find my set of golf clubs, my tennis equipment, and softball equipment. To this day, I work long hours at the television station at Channel 4, sometimes 16-hour work days. But yet, I love sports so much that I have to have it readily available in case I get off work early or on a day off, a friend can go and play one of my favorite sports with me in my free time. I want to take you back to a time when I was in high school at Pickerington Central. I was coming off a record-setting season my sophomore year, where I was an all-state first baseman. I set the record for RBIs hit in a single season. We were ranked in the top 10 my junior year coming back. There was a lot of pressure. Colleges are starting to look at you for recruiting process, and I was the number 4 batter on our team. I hit a hitting slump like I had never seen, and I had started playing softball at the age, well, t-ball at 5 years old. My confidence was at an all-time low. I didn't understand what was wrong with my hit, what was wrong with my swing. And for the first time in my life, my coach said, "Audrey, I'm sorry, this is a big game, you're not starting. I cannot put you in." And I said, "Coach, actually that's gonna be worse for my confidence, for my self-esteem, and trying to get my swing back. I don't know what's going on." And she says, "Well, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to make the most if you get into pinch hit, because I have to put the person in right now who's gonna put us in the best position to win." Those words have stayed with me my entire life, because in a career, your boss or your employer is always gonna put in the person who's gonna put them in the best position to succeed or to win. I got into pinch hit, and I still couldn't hit. And at the end of the game, I said, "Coach, I'm ready to cry." But there's no crying in baseball, right? Or softball. I couldn't cry, and I was not going to cry. But I went home and I cried to my mom. My parents were always supportive, but what did I do? I showed up to practice early to get extra soft toss and get work on the tee. I stayed late. I had my mom take me to the batting cage that night because she says, "You're not gonna cry, Audrey. You will get out of this slump." I ended up getting out of the slump. The first time I hit a triple after my teammates jumped off the bench, they came and gave me a huge hug. I don't even remember all my stats of my junior year at this point in my life. I'm in my 30s, you know? But I remember my teammates that were there for me and how happy they were for me. The relationships that you're starting right now playing high school sports will forever change your life. You'll take the principles of learning to rely on your teammates when you are in a slump, whether you're in a downtime at work or in your family life or your personal life. You will rely on your teammates, your coworkers, and your support system to get you through. Playing sports gave me that confidence that my senior year of college, I interned in New York City at Rockefeller Center. If you've watched the Today Show, I was there, I walked all the halls. I wanted to work so hard, the same principles I've learned to get in that extra hitting practice. I said, I'm gonna put the most into this internship in New York City. NBC at Rockefeller Center ended up hiring me as a production assistant. So at the age of 21, I moved to New York City by myself, not knowing one single person. I was a little scared. My parents weren't sure of what I was gonna do in New York City. And I made no money as a production assistant in the most expensive city in the country. So I decided to get a second job. I worked Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 at NBC, and then I went and worked at a restaurant at nighttime because I needed to make extra money. I couldn't afford the city. While working in the restaurant, one of the vice presidents of Fox News was there, and he said, what is someone with your personality? Clearly you're not from New York City. You're too happy and you smile too much. And I said, well, I'm from Ohio. And I said, I'm in broadcasting communications, but I'm working behind the scenes right now at NBC during the day, but I needed to make extra money. So I was persevering, working 2 jobs. He said, you know what, we're launching a new program for entertainment, lifestyles, and sports for our website, foxnews.com. Why don't you come to the station? They sent me out with the camera crew in the middle of Times Square as a tryout audition. Could I go talk to people in Times Square, where the ball drops on New Year's Eve? I was nervous, but the skills that I'd learned, the confidence that I had gained from playing sports, I'm like, you got this, Audrey. And I did. I ended up getting hired there. I got agents, and they said, you light up when you talk about sports. That's when I went on to work for the WNBA. My dad got sick, and I wanted to come back to Ohio. I'm from Pickerington. There were no jobs even here when I was looking to come back. And I made every call, every contact that I knew here at the local stations, but WOSU then ends up calling. I said, well, I want to cover sports, but this was an arts and lifestyles program here with Worthington High. But I said, you know what, I'm still a journalist, and I can cover anything, and I want to be home in Central Ohio. So an opportunity, so I took the job at WOSU, and I won my first Emmy Award at WOSU. A job that I didn't necessarily think that I was particularly right for or that excited about. I went on to win another Emmy as well with that program. But then an opportunity knocked because at NBC4 here locally, because I put those contacts out. It's everything that you learn to never say no, to persevere through every opportunity that you're learning now when you lose, or you go into a hitting slump, or even if you make it to the States and you lose. That will help you. The strength that you learn right now, playing all of your sports, will help you learn to be your best person and to persevere no matter what. Now, like I said, I still have my sports equipment in my car, and it's such a part of my life. And I feel so privileged and honored every day that I get to come to Thomas Worthington, that I get to go out and cover Pickerington Central when the football team won the first Division I state championship ever in school programming. I love sports. I love what I do every day. And I invite you to reach out to me. I love bringing anyone to the station, showing you guys around. You guys actually, if you have any interest in sports reporting at some point, you have a smartphone. You can have your fellow teammates and athletes at your sporting events. Get out your phone, jot down a few notes and stats, and then have your friend videotape you and see how you do. I guarantee you'll learn those skills if you want to go on and work in sports. But I'm always, the door is open, my email, reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram. You can find me at Audrey at NBC4, and then NBC4i.com, Audrey at WCMH.com. Thank you so much. I want to leave you, though, actually with my favorite quote. It's stayed on my refrigerator since I was 21 and I moved to New York City. It's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. You learn strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. Thank you.
Our final guest speaker today, Coach Callie Brownson, will be introduced by seniors Meredith Nesda and Riley Ford. Meredith is a 4-year varsity athlete on the cross country and lacrosse teams. Meredith is a member of the Student Athletic Leadership Board and plans on following a pre-med track next year at the school of her choosing. Meredith's lacrosse coach, Scott Hamilton, describes her as hardworking, driven, and extremely kind. Riley Ford is a member of the 3-time state championship field hockey team and is a 4-year varsity lacrosse player. Riley's field hockey coach, Terry Simonetti, describes her as hilarious, fun-loving, loyal, and determined. Riley plans to attend either Ohio University or the University of Dayton to study special education and psychology. Please welcome Riley and Meredith.
Our final guest speaker today traveled all the way from Dartmouth University in Hanover, New Hampshire to join us. Riley and I have the pleasure to introduce to all of you a true pioneer in college sports, Coach Callie Brownson. Callie Brownson is the first woman to coach an NCAA Division I football team at Dartmouth College. Before becoming a college football coach, Callie Brownson played for the DC Divas from 2010 to 2017 in the Women's Football Alliance. She was a 5-time team captain and a 4-time All-American as a free safety and a running back, helping the Divas win national titles in 2015 and 2016. Brownson is also a 2-time gold medalist with Team USA Women's Football. Callie began her coaching career at the high school level, spending 3 seasons with Mount Vernon High School as an assistant coach where she created daily practice itineraries, built scouting reports, and led study and breakdown sessions for schematic assessments. In 2018, Callie was a college and professional personnel scouting intern with the New York Jets. During that time, Coach Brownson helped evaluate current college upperclassmen that could potentially enter the draft, broke down film, and set up workout drills for free agent tryouts. Brownson was ultimately hired as the Big Green's offensive quality control coach after serving as an intern during the 2018 preseason. This made Callie the first full-time female football coach at the Division I level. Please give a warm Worthington welcome to Coach Callie Brownson.
Well, good morning. We're going to do that again. All right, I'm a football coach, so I love energy, so I need a lot of it from you guys, all right? So let's try that again. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. That's a lot better. Can we do a round of applause for these 4 amazing people? So, I'm really excited to be here. I think this is a phenomenal day, a phenomenal event. The fact that you guys are here is great. You know, this is the future right here of women in sports, in whatever capacity that may be. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my story and how I got here to this point, and then I'm going to share throughout this story the 10 big lessons that I learned. And I hope that you guys can apply at least a handful of them to your journey, whatever it may be. So I'll start, I guess, from the top. All right. So I grew up in a small town right outside of Washington, D.C. in Virginia. My dad was a single father. He raised my brother and I. My brother's a couple years older than me. Doesn't have an athletic bone in his body. So my dad, as soon as I expressed an interest in sports, was like, yes, all right. So, you know, my dad was always our biggest fan. And no matter what we did, he was front row. And it's tough being a single father. And on top of that, he started his own business when we were young. So he was a single father and an entrepreneur. Right off the bat, I had a role model, somebody who worked hard, who sacrificed, who was passionate, who did whatever they had to do for what they believed in. So he's the one who got me into football. My dad went to University of Miami, was a big Miami Hurricanes fan. So in the fall, every Saturday, we watched Miami Hurricane football. And I fell in love with the game very early on. But my childhood was spent mostly on the baseball field. So when I started playing, about 5 or 6 t-ball, there were some girls in the league, and you know, it was you know, I had some counterparts there. But as I got older and baseball got a little bit more competitive, that number diminished to 0. I was the only girl really in Northern Virginia playing baseball. And so I remember my first brush with kind of understanding the reality of, well, this is kind of how things are. Girls don't play baseball, right? I was 11, and we had just wrapped up the regular season, playoff time, and that weekend, actually, the coaches were going to vote for the All-Star team. So everybody's kind of hanging out and talking about who they think is going to make the team and you know, how that's going to go. And I go home, and my dad's like, oh, so, you know, how was the game, and this, that, and the other. And I kind of gossip with him, this is what so-and-so said about who's going to make the All-Star team. And I'm listing off all these names, and he stops me kind of angrily, and he says, well, wait, what about you? And I looked at him puzzled. I was like, what do you mean, what about me? He's like, well, you didn't list your name. Nobody listed your name? I was like, Dad, come on. And this kind of ticked him off. I said, girls don't make the all-star team. What are you talking about? And he took my hand, and I think he had to take a deep breath and not lose his cool. And he said, you led the team with your batting average. You had the least amount of errors in the field. And they joked with you in the beginning of the season and said that you couldn't hit a home run. You hit 2. If anybody deserves to be on that all-star team, it's you. So, lesson number 1. Do not let anybody edit your storyline. The pen is in your hand. I had allowed other people's perceptions of my role as a female on a baseball team to actually tell me what I thought I deserved, to actually tell me where I thought I belonged. So that's lesson number 1. You write the storyline. You work for what you work for, and you get what you deserve. So I did play football when I was 9 and 10, but got into baseball pretty competitively, and you travel in the fall when you're on the travel team, so kind of put football on the back burner. Still loved it, watched it as much as possible. High school came, and I kind of went to my dad, and I said, I think I want to try out for the football team, freshman football team. And all the guys who were going to try out for the team were my friends, and were encouraging me to do it. They said, it's a great idea. So after mowing a lot of lawns and taking the trash out a few times, I finally persuaded my dad to go up to the high school and take me to fall orientation and sign up for football. We walk into the school, we go up to the football table, passing the field hockey table, passing all these tables. Cheerleading's like, oh, hey, stop here. And I went up to the football table, and they looked at me like I was lost. And the guy kind of goes, oh, well, and he's stuttering, and he's just completely unsure of how to act. And so they sat us in the office in the athletic director's office, and the head football coach at the time came in, and long story short, told me to go home. No, it wasn't gonna happen. No way. So I remember the ride home being one of the saddest, lowest feelings I had felt, because I didn't understand it. What do you mean no? I know I can play. I play with these guys, we're throwing each other around at the turkey bowl every Thanksgiving in the backyard. What do you mean? I play with these guys all the time. What do you mean I can't? So that was a tough reality. Lesson number 2. You may not always understand it, but trust the process. Fast forward a few years, my first ever high school football coaching gig was at the same high school that told me I couldn't play. So I graduated high school, I played softball in high school, had a great career, loved it. Softball was, really, really dear to me. But I graduated and I went to George Mason University, which is about 45 minutes away from my hometown. And I kind of didn't know what I was going to do with myself. I was going to school, working, and somebody approached me and they said, did you know there's women's football? I was 19 at the time. And I said, what do you mean women's football? So I go home and I Google it, watching these YouTube videos, and I'm doing all this research, and I'm watching this incredible thing, and I'm like kind of intimidated. These women can ball. I mean, these women could ball. And I was like, wait, I don't know about this. I kind of gave up, right? I gave up on it. They told me no. I kind of put the fact that I would ever be able to play football again away. And I was like, I don't know. I'm 19. These women are well into their 20s and 30s, and they're very, very good. I don't know about this. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about football. And when I found out about this league, I couldn't stop thinking about the opportunity to play again. Rule number 3. Be relentless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire. If you can't stop thinking about it, don't stop working for it. So I tried out. And that was about 10 years ago, actually, almost to the date. I tried out. I had 9 great seasons, 2 national championships, 2 gold medals overseas, but most importantly, I met some of the most incredible women you could ever meet who became my forever family. And that is the real trophy that I take home from those 9 seasons that I played, was who I got to meet and who I got to be a part of that incredible experience with. So while I was playing, a couple years into it, I was also coaching softball at my alma mater, and I got approached in the hallway one day by the new football coach who came in, and he stopped me and he said, I heard you play women's football. It's awesome. It's incredible. And I said, well, thank you. That's nice of you to say. And he goes, have you ever thought about coaching football? And I was like, no. Up to this point, other than playing, all of my experiences as it pertained to men in football was that women just didn't belong in that world. And here somebody was asking me if I've ever thought about coaching it. And so I was like, I don't know, I never really thought about it. And he was like, well, why don't you join my staff this fall? I'd love to have you, I think the guys would really like you. And I was a little hesitant, because again, I had this negative feeling of how women fit into this spectrum of men in football. Lesson number 4, take the jump because you have absolutely no idea where you'll land, but it's worth it, right? Because that's where my coaching career started. Because somebody took a chance, and because I took a chance on myself. So then what happened, right? So I was playing, I was actually in Vancouver with Team USA, going to get on the bus to play Canada in the gold medal game. I got my headphones in, I'm listening to like Backstreet Boys getting hyped, and all of a sudden my phone starts ringing. And it's the New York Jets. And because of my time coaching at the high school level, I was involved in a lot of camps with USA Football, and I got to do a lot of these little coaching clinics, and I was involved in some supplement programs that the NFL launched that promoted women in football and getting careers in football. So my resume was out there somewhere, and somebody had sent it to the Jets. And they got on the phone and they said, we're looking to hire some women to come and intern. We got your resume. Is it something you'd be interested in? And I said, yeah. So I went and spent 8 weeks in beautiful Florham Park, New Jersey. And it's not that beautiful. That was sarcastic. And met the most incredible people. And it was the most surreal experience for me because every day I was working with the general manager of an NFL team, the head coach of an NFL team, and all of these people took the time to invest in me, to nurture my football knowledge, to nurture my experience, and to help me grow and become a qualified candidate. Lesson number 5, pay attention to the people who are willing to build you up. Those people who are willing to get down on all fours so that you can reach the thing above you. Pay attention to those people. So, I do my internship with the Jets. Everything goes really, really well. Had a blast. 8 weeks is over, training camp's over. I slept like 3 hours in 8 weeks. And it was time for the next step. That internship had solidified that I was exactly where I needed to be. I'm all amped up, I'm feeling good about it. Had a great 8 weeks. All those people said really good things about me, so I'm like, all right, what's next? I get 3 interviews with different NFL teams. They fly me out, and I partake in this absolutely rigorous interview experience. They literally put you in a film room for 2 hours and make you write up all this stuff, and it's very rigorous. And I walk out and I realize that I'm interviewing for one position against 80 to 90 men. I was the only woman interviewing for it, men who had double the experience of me. But I still left all 3 of those locations so confident. I was like, I killed it. I was confident in what I had and what I knew and what I brought to the table, and I knew I belonged there. I knew it. And one by one, those calls came in saying, well, we decided to go a different direction. There's that feeling of like deflation again, right? All right, lesson number 6. Failure is not a destination, it's a learning opportunity, right? I had to take a big look in the mirror. All right, so what was it maybe that I dropped the ball on? And that's a hard thing for us to do as people, right? To look in the mirror and say, man, you kind of suck at this. We don't do it that often. We don't like to. Human instinct tells us to hype ourselves up, right? But it's important to understand through our failures that that's where we learn the most about ourselves. So I had to sit there and say, oh, I couldn't say, oh, it's a fluke, it's a fluke. I had to say, well, next time I need to be somebody they can't say no to. All right, so cue the next stage. I get a phone call in the midst of this rebuilding process to go down and coach an inaugural camp that was being hosted by the most prestigious camp in the country, the Manning Passing Academy, the Mannings, like Eli and Peyton. All right, so they do this camp for boys every year, where 1,500 of them come down, and they're all college prospects, and it's this massive camp, and it's a big deal. Everybody knows about it. Well, they wanted to put on a camp for girls. So my phone rings, and they asked if I would coach in it. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I had no idea what I was walking into when I went down. I flew down to Thibodaux, Louisiana, We'll just call it New Orleans. And I showed up for this camp. I walk into the room, here's this gentleman standing in front of me, no idea who he is. It's Coach Buddy Stevens, head coach at Dartmouth. He says, I'm really happy to have you guys here. It was me and a bunch of other female coaches. He was really excited about it, really amped. Got to sit and talk with him for a little bit. I had no idea. I was there to coach a camp. I thought this was the coolest thing. I was energized. I'm running around with the kids. I'm like throwing them over my head. I'm like having a blast. Teaching them football, doing what I love to do. Without me knowing, he was watching. Lesson number 7. Always show up and be the best version of yourself. 2 weeks after I flew home from that camp, Coach Buddy Stevens called me. A month after that, I was a full-time coach in college football. Always put your best foot forward because you never know who's watching. All right? So, I get the job, and it gets a little crazy because myself nor Coach Stevens had any idea that I was the first. To us, it was kind of unfathomable. How was there not another woman coaching or had coached in the past college football? It's impossible. There's 3 full-time women coaching in the NFL right now. How has there never been anybody in college? So it kind of turns into a little bit of a circus, right? There's all kinds of people who want to talk to me and do all these things, and, you know, it's a little heavy. So it looks great on paper, right? But sometimes being the first isn't very fun. It's a heavy burden because what happened was I could never look tired. I could never look frustrated. I could never look incapable because the second that I did, people were going to say, I told you women can't do it. I told you they can't hang. Look at this. She's tired. Lesson number 8. Be the change you wish to see in the world. I knew this had to change. Didn't exactly choose for it to be me who had to kick the door in, but that's what it was. And I had to understand that in order for the hundreds of women who coach youth and high school football around the country right now to have a chance to make their dreams come true, I had to be the change. I had to reflect the change. I had to be that person. Lesson number 9, build good bridges. I'm not asking you to be an engineer, all right? It's a metaphor for the conversations we use, right? So when I was asked a lot of questions about this, like I said, I had to reflect this change. So this is so important when we talk about equality, and it's an important skill for you guys to also be able to build at this point, is building good bridges. So what does that mean, right? The structure of our conversations. When we're fighting for things like equality, are we coming off argumentative? Are we coming off defensive? Are we coming off uneducated? Are we losing our cool? Because what we've done there is we've built a really bad bridge. We've built a rope bridge in the rainforest that everybody's like, nope, not doing it. All right, instead, are we educating? All right, are we putting good content into our conversations and our points? You know, when I got the opportunity to talk to people and say, women in football is a good thing, it's something you should respect, I had to put together a good bridge because I want people to cross it. I want people to want to check it out and see that women can do it. Right? I had to build a sturdy bridge. So focus on that content, all right? When you're against something and you want to prove yourself, you want to prove something, think about the bridge you're building, right? We want to educate, not overwhelm. So the last thing I want to touch on is, I'm standing here, I'm honored to be here. I think this is phenomenal. This incredible, the 4 women that got to speak before me, I mean, just incredible. I feel honored to be here. And I'm happy, to be able to share this message, but I would like to make the point that just because I'm here, I have not made it. I am not by any means at my pinnacle. In fact, I've really just started. And with that being said, it's a steep hill ahead of me. It's only going to get harder. The next step is only going to get harder. I'm only going to face more opposition. I'm only going to get more people who keep telling me I don't belong in this world. I don't belong where I'm at. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know a thing about football. It's only going to get worse, right? Every step I take. So last week, it's weird how life works, right? Trust the process, lesson number 2. It's weird how life works because I had a reporter ask me a question last week, and it was along that topic of what I just said. It's only going to get harder. And the reporter said, Why are you doing this? Why are you being the punching bag? Why do you do it? And the easy answer, obviously, is I love it. This is my dream. It's what I want to do with my life. This is important to me. And I was actually thinking about it on the plane on the way here. You know, in this room right now are future high school record breakers, future collegiate athletes, maybe even some athletes who are going to go compete internationally, represent their country. Maybe even some professional athletes, future professional athletes. Definitely some women who are going to work in sports in some capacity. Definitely, my favorite, some future coaches in this room right now. Future glass ceiling breakers. Future people who prove people wrong about what women can and can't do. All in this room. Lesson number 10, know your why. This room right here, this event, this day, is my why. Knowing that this is the future of women in sports, future of women in society in general, is my why. And that's motivating enough. I want to thank you guys for having me. Thank you for this incredible event. I would love to be on your bus, all right? You can find any means that you need to contact me. Honestly, I would love to hear from you guys. My email's on the Dartmouth website. Reach out to me, open door policy. This is just a really incredible group, so thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Coach Brownson. So before we go, I would like to now welcome some special guests today from Worthington Youth Boosters. Rachel Estep and Tammy Bryant are here to present a special award.
Good morning. I will be brief with my comments, and especially because I can never follow a panel like this and do it any justice. But it's not my goal to do that. It's actually to honor one of these women up here on my left. So thank you for having me today as part of the celebration of women and girls in sports. I'm honored to be here representing Worthington Youth Boosters as an organization that is woven into the diverse and rich fabric of our community. Over 60 years ago, a group of Worthington residents saw a need to incorporate youth sports into the patchwork of our community. Together, they started with one sport, baseball. At that time, I don't think there were probably any girls on that team. But as time went on, the presence of WYB grew, and over a half century later, WYB is still an amazing volunteer organization that serves the young people in Worthington. Last year, WYB saw over 6,000 students in Worthington's elementary schools participating in 11 different sports. The mission of WYB is simple: to provide affordable opportunities to children in the Worthington School District to participate in organized sports programs. I'm fairly confident that the majority of you sitting with us today have played at least one WYB sport. You may have tried it for just one season, deciding it wasn't for you, but it didn't stop you from getting excited to try something new the next season. Eventually, one season ran into another where cleats were put away, gymnastic leotards were dug out of the closet, to be followed in the next season by a neighbor passing down an old lacrosse or field hockey stick to you. No doubt, some of you may even have tried all the sports offered by WYB. And I'm sure you have a vivid memory or two of those early years of sports. It's okay to admit it was the orange slices and juice boxes that kept you coming back. As you grew, being on a team may have simply meant having fun with friends that resulted in more frequent trips for ice cream. I am to this day convinced that ice cream cures every tear-filled post-game disappointment, as it rightfully should at a young age. Eventually, though, the bug to compete took root, and has led you to where you are today. The extraordinary thing about sport is that it doesn't just produce athletes. It produces people who recognize the importance of sportsmanship, teamwork, collaboration, and communication. Skills that directly translate to life off of the field. Occasionally, it produces leaders that recognize that their individual contribution is only a part of their responsibility. They recognize that the sum of each teammate's part always produces a greater whole. For the past 18 months, one talented and brilliant young woman here has shown the Worthington community that the lessons learned on the field from coaches, in the classroom from teachers, and at home by her amazing family has had a true and lasting impact for girls, wanting the chance to be part of that greater whole. This dynamic teammate and leader, too, has a simple mission: the assurance that in Worthington, every girl can play. Realizing the powerfully positive experience she had as a young athlete and seeing a need to give back in her community, in 2018, Rachel Rinaldi launched a program she developed called Every Girl Can Play. After what I refer to as an AP level of research on the socioeconomic demographics and the statistical analysis of benefits to girls in young sports, Rachel was convinced that every girl in Worthington should have the resources necessary to play a sport, should they want to. Many young people may have valiantly thought that the success of establishing their own program was by going out and giving it all they had, sweat, blood, and tears. But in true Rinaldi fashion, Rachel knew that the sum of each teammate's part was always going to produce a greater whole. So she approached WYB with her plan and asked if we would partner with her to make Every Girl Can Play as successful as possible. WYB immediately recognized the extraordinary impact Every Girl Can Play could have in serving our community, and so the teamwork, collaboration, and communication began through Rachel's leadership. In the past year, Every Girl Can Play has raised over $2,000 directly towards offering scholarships to any girl in Worthington that would like to try any sport offered by WYB. Those funds directly translate to more than 25 new sports opportunities for a girl that may never have made it onto the basketball court, softball field, or soccer pitch for the first time. Rachel has also realized the burden of participation doesn't stop with a registration fee. She understands that the need for equipment may also present challenges. So she has also begun a stick drive, collecting no longer used lacrosse and field hockey sticks to keep on hand for any girl who may need one. She has worked tirelessly in making sure that as many financial barriers are removed in order to reach as many young girls as possible. And before I officially honor Rachel for her accomplishments, I'm going to make a shameless plug on her behalf. You can help sustain the success of Every Girl Can Play by picking up one of the flyers she's created outside and donating to this program, or going to the Worthington Boosters website to make an online donation. For the young ladies visiting today, it's never too early to start giving back to your sport. Figure out how the sum of each of you working together will produce a greater whole in Worthington, or wherever you land in life. I'd like to introduce Tammy Bryant. She's the WYB Administrative Director, and she's here to present Rachel Rinaldi. Rachel Rinaldi for her contribution to girls' sports in Worthington through Every Girl Can Play, presented in conjunction with the National Girls and Women in Sports Day, celebrating the extraordinary achievements of women and girls in sports. February 6, 2019, Thomas Worthington High School.
All right, so to our guests from Worthington Kilbourne, McCord Middle School, Phoenix, Worthing Way, and KMS, thank you so much